Hi everyone, it's Zara Altair with Actation Now, and I am so excited to have Ammon Johns as our guest today. And Ammon has been an internet marketing consultant since 1996, and he has graciously offered to just answer your questions today. I'm very excited about that interactive aspect of an HOA, so I'm doubly thrilled to have him here. And we're going to start off right away with our very first question that we received, and this is from Julia Aspinwall. Thank you so much, Julia. And she says, Ammon Johns, you are definitely my favorite friendly curmudgeon. Here's my newbie question. What are the top 3 things you would advise someone to do who is launching a new business online?
Yeah, it's lovely to see that British U stuck in there. I like that. It's very nice. Good thinking, Julia. Okay, the top 3 things to do. I think one of the most common problems people have is thinking it's going to be easy. Easy money is a bit like a free lunch. There's no such thing. For money to come to you, it's got to come out of somebody else's pocket. And nobody's going to make that particularly easy for you. There's things that you can easily do that offer value that will therefore work. But there's an awful lot more people who are making their easy money by trying to talk you into buying into their scheme or something like that. So first thing is skepticism. Understand there is no easy money. You're going to have to work for it. Sometimes that will be in something that you absolutely love doing, like internet marketing for me. But you've got to be providing value. That's where the money is. The more you are doing for somebody, the more it's worth to them. The second thing is that, yeah, we sometimes look at the fact that the internet reaches everyone, it's global, as making it easy for us. Oh, look, you can reach everybody online. Yes, you can. What the internet really is, though, is the most competitive environment there has ever been. There has never been a time before when you open a business and your direct competitors are every rival business on the entire internet. That's never happened before. You know, if you're in a small town and 2 other shops did what you did, that was a lot of competition. So when it's the internet and there's 22,000 other businesses doing what you do, that's something you've got to consider as well. So those 2 bring me to the absolute third and final point, and this is the one where the money is. Be unique. It doesn't matter particularly in what way, but what matters really is being unique in a way that's relevant to your customers. Sometimes that's about being more you, more authentic, more easy to relate to, because not relating to people, especially when it's technical products, is a big handicap. So if you are able to relate to people, that's a positive selling point. Sometimes it's about making it very easy for them. Sometimes it's about understanding them better. One of the things that we've sometimes talked about in the past generally is people doing searches to get out of paying money. Anti-commercial search, I call them. You know, when somebody says, how do I build a shed? It's not because they don't know that people sell sheds. It's not because they've never heard of the term carpenter. They're trying to save money and not hiring those things. And you know, you kind of need to understand this. And sometimes, if you're a carpenter, putting guides up there on how to do it and all of the work involved and all of the provisos and all of the tools they're going to need is the thing that's going to make them realise that, do you know what, I'll just get a carpenter, and this guy's really honest. He's given me everything I could have done. He's shown me the level of thought and quality that's gone into this. This is the carpenter for me. Those are the 3 things I think are the most important. Understanding that you need to be skeptical. There's no easy money. You're going to have to work. That it's the most competitive environment there's ever been, and that uniqueness in any way, shape or form, but particularly in a way that matters to your audience, that's where to go.
Oh, Ammon, thank you. I just want to echo the thought and quality. I think those are 2 extremely important ingredients when you're in such a competitive environment. And we have another question from Kristen Drysdale. Ammon Johns, I would really like to hear your take on Google authorship as it pertains to what you see for the future of search. Thank you, Kristen.
It's a very interesting question. I mean, authorship almost took us by surprise. You know, we've all been talking about it since it came along, but there's not very many people predicting authorship. But we did used to talk about the idea of, you know, sites having authority and rank. We never particularly thought of it just applying to one writer and tracking that across different sites, tying it all back together by a profile. So that's the part we didn't see coming. It's very logical. At the moment, Google started with it on a big scale to try and get lots of data on how it was going to work. They've been scaling it back, so we're seeing less and less authorship use and markup in the searching. I think that Google is going to refine it more and more about, you know, quality. Are you really known as an authority on this? Does it enhance the result to know it comes from you? So if I was looking for, you know, an article on time in physics, you know, the idea of time in physics, and, you know, Stephen Hawking is one of the authors, yeah, that would enhance it to know it's him who's written a book on time, and, you know, that kind of thing enhances the results. If it's a scientist I've never heard of and isn't famous for this, does it enhance results? Probably not. It does for him, but not for me. And Google's not interested in the writer, it's interested in the searcher. So I think, you know, what we're going to see is that it's going to be user-focused. It's not necessarily going to be something you'll want to game, but it's certainly going to be a thing that a lot of people are going to jump on, obsess about, and try to game a bit and waste their time. So avoid that. Become known for something, build an authority, and then your authorship is there, and Google will reflect the reality. If you try and set up the reflection before the reality, that's not going to happen.
Thank you, Ammon. The reflection before the reality. Yes, there's always that reality segment. And speaking of reality, we have a great question from Cheryl Deuce. I have a question. So as you stated earlier, that downfall of calling yourself an expert, how do you market yourself and your skills in a way that shows how good you are without overstating and coming off cocky?
I'm not coming off as cocky. Oh, damn. My whole strategy's been going wrong. Seriously, like this. Or like that example with the carpenter telling you exactly how to build that shed. Don't take yourself too seriously. Life's too short for that. If you're always worried about how you look, you're starting to live like a Victorian drama. Very stiff and formal, and it's hard to relate to somebody like that. Let yourself go. Be genuine. Be there. Not faking it, but just doing it. People are a lot smarter than a lot of marketers give them credit for. You know, there's a certain level of smoke and mirrors that can be done, but at the end of the day, a real honest person-to-person exchange throws all of that away. If somebody actually helps you, you can't fake that, because help isn't defined by the giver, it's defined by the recipient, and advice only becomes good if you take it. Information that informs you is information. Information that doesn't is just data. It's raw, it didn't do anything. It's only information when it informs you. So the way that you get across doing these things is by doing it. Show them, give them value, and they will want more and more of that. People like positive people in their lives. One thing that I hear a lot is, you know, when I want to get smarter, I surround myself with smart people. I want to be the dumbest person in the room so that I can learn. I don't know if I always want to be the absolute dumbest in the room. Maybe second dumbest, you know. But there is this thing, don't take yourself too seriously, because you miss so much of real interaction. don't be afraid of putting yourself out there. If what you've got is valuable, that's going to work. If it isn't, and that isn't going to work, well, then by putting yourself out there is where you're going to know that before you invest a lot of money into it. And you're able to refine how you present yourself to make sure it is going to be valuable. Before you go putting a whole lot of money into smoke and mirrors advertising to find out they're going to see through it just before they sign that contract, and then it's going to fail, and fail expensive. The thing we say these days is fail fast. And that's as true in personal interaction. You know, let people know who you are. If they're not going to like that, it's better to know up front before you've signed a contract to work with them for the next year.
Oh, that is so important, and because my experience with personal interaction and doing business is that, you know, if it's not working at the beginning, it's only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse. But I really like your distinction between information and data, and that information is your true sharing of knowledge. And then we have a question from Ray Miller, and that is, Ammon Johns, I have one for you. What is your opinion of the usefulness of the HOAs as a learning/teaching tool for up-and-coming entrepreneurs, including live HOAs and the ones that have been archived? Boy, that was a full one. This is going to be a full answer, I think.
Right. That's the rest of this HOA taken care of then. I'm very interested in education. My first proper job after leaving school was to go back to school as a technician, doing the audio-visual material, the learning materials. My mother was a teacher. I've always had a passion for education as well as marketing. So HOA is a fantastic tool. The distance learning aspect alone, you know, webinars have been being used for teaching for quite a while. Although, interestingly, I found a couple of studies found that when you give people the course material first and then have a HOA, you know, or a webinar to take questions, once you've informed people, and they can go away and read the stuff and then ask educated questions and refinements based on what they studied, is better than what most universities do, where they have a lecture and then send you off to read the stuff about it. They often try to use the lecture as a way of interesting you, which can work, but the real value in those, the way it measured most in upping somebody's level of knowledge, was having the discussion at the end to be able to refine all those points and say, you know, I really like this, but I couldn't quite work out how this fits with that. Those are those final little pieces that without it, the knowledge doesn't work. So, do I love HOAs for learning? God, yes, massively. You know, I wouldn't do so many if I didn't. So much of my work is about teaching clients, changing the way people think, and so much of what I love to do is about giving you those little things that just click in your own minds and help you develop the whole field further yourself. It's not about just what I can teach you, it's about what I can make you think that you can then teach me. Learning is always a two-way street. Every teacher learns from every student. Sometimes they learn not to have that student in their class anymore, but every teacher learns from every student. HOAs are not just useful for education, of course. You know, the marketing side of it. The only thing holding it back right now is that people are struggling to find a way to monetize, other than direct one-to-one consultations. That, you know, it's going to be a slight discrepancy between this and people getting on, but I don't think it's going to be very long before you're going to have a clickable button in your HOA that lets people go to a download page or a shopping page if they want to. For everything else, HOAs are absolutely spot on. We're still getting to grips with being them. I mean, most of us do not have a background in television theatre or script writing or even being on talk shows, so doing them is still very new to a lot of people. Jump in, learn what works, be very honest with yourself about what works as well. Look at the shows you enjoy, emulate those positive things, and yeah, have fun with it. I love HOAs.
HOAs are a lot of fun. They are a lot of fun, and I really like our question answer format that we're doing today. Julia had another question, and I'm just going to touch on it briefly because I think you answered a lot of it in your answer to Ray. What is an elegant way to create the bridge between providing the value for free via HOAs and inviting people into your business and paid services? It seems like there is an incredibly generous G Plus and HOA culture, and the preview call or preview webinar launch methods I've seen in the past aren't a fit. Making an offer at the end of an HOA seems like it would be a big turnoff to everyone in this environment. I'm going to leave it at that, Julia, if you don't mind, because we're halfway through right now.
It's one that, you know, I'll be honest with you, we're all learning. You know, Susie is as much of an experiment as an example. We know that providing value teaches people to value us, and therefore it increases the amount of times that people are going to come to you. Let's face it, most people now have a pretty positive view of Isuzu, and they understand that Isuzu are very serious and, you know, I wouldn't say serious, we have a hell of a laugh, but you know what I mean. We're not a flash in the pan company. We're not regurgitating the same things that you find everywhere else. There's a lot of thought going in. It's a quality operation. It's HOAs that have taught everyone this. So what is the value? Well, huge. You know, the brand search for Isuzu will be going up all of the time because of these HOAs. Direct call, that depends on the conversation you're having. If it is a product demo HOA, then it's fine. I would be amazed if people hadn't signed up for Majestic after we did a show on Majestic and showing how it can be used and the different things it can do. I'm sure there were some extra people that went and got it. We didn't have to say, make sure you go and try it. We showed the value. And I think that's where the bridge is. Show the value, and if you can't show the value, it probably isn't worth putting a call to action at the end anyway.
That's fabulous. I think we're echoing value here today. And then Peter Lund has a long question. I'm sorry I can't show it all to everyone, but I'm going to read it all. Here's one just to keep you on your toes, Ammon Johns, and which I think may be interesting and helpful to many. Matt Curtis said in a recent Webmaster Tools video that it is possible to rank a website page that has little or no inbound links where few other pages answer a particular search query. But, and the but is bold, the inference in his video was that inbound links still win. So, how, in today's post-Penguin SEO world, should small business owners with possibly limited time and budget ensure that Google loves their content and puts it in front of the eyeballs that matter?
Yeah, it's an awesome question. Yeah, Peter's absolutely right, and I've heard so many people re-quoting this Matt Cutts video. Oh, Matt says you can rank pages without a lot of links. Yeah, he gave a lot of provisos there. And do you know what? If you can find any search out there that there are only 9 results for, I can guarantee you page 1 results, you know, because you'll be number 10. No matter what, you could do anything, and as long as Google can actually find you, you're going to be in there. When you've got 10 million results, having no links is not going to get you up there. Google was originally built around links. PageRank is still a hugely important factor. When Matt has talked specifically about social media factors, he has stated repeatedly that social media pages are treated exactly like any other, i.e. Google's still looking at the links on social media. Some of them are no-follow, they're not passing huge amounts of PageRank juice, but they're aware that people are talking about it. Even when links have no PageRank, there's still a certain amount of value. So, what can a small business do about this? Well, there's still directories that matter. Certainly if you're a local business, you should be in local directories. You should be thinking about being connected up with any industry bodies or local networks that make sense to your business, and some of those will have links. You should certainly have your G+ profile linking to your site, and anybody else that's with your company would presumably want to cite themselves as being part of this. Now those are links, so it doesn't have to be a huge amount, as long as your network is small and your targeting is small. If you're trying to be the best web design agency in Boulder, Colorado, you're only competing with other agencies that deal with that region. There's going to be a few global companies that try and target it, but mostly, you've narrowed down the competition. So you're not going to need a huge amounts to just be there. To top it, yes, you're still going to need a lot of links. And that's what Matt's saying. You can get in the results. You don't have to, panic over this. But it's mostly to stop people thinking that they've got to buy millions of links or build millions of links, which is completely wrong. You don't need millions of links. You really don't. I guarantee you now that one link could keep you in business for the rest of your life. All you need is for it to be on page 1 of Google just before the search box. One link would sort you out for life. You don't need lots of links. You need a few good links, and they need to be relevant. So, on your profiles, and build up your profiles through interacting on social will make that an important link. If you've got a Twitter profile, building up your influence by being good on Twitter and valuable and making people respect you will make that link more worthwhile, because there'll be more links to your profile. The more people that follow you, the more links there are to your profile, and therefore your profile has more link power to be passing back to your page. Hopefully that kind of explains it. You don't need to think about volume, but you do still need to think about quality. And if somebody else has a lot of high quality links, it's going back to that scientist thing earlier about the physics and time. One of them has a reputation, one of them doesn't. People value that reputation, and Google is trying to match people. It's trying to make their results make sense to you by working the same way that your brain does. Google is trying to sort all of those results the same way that an impartial person would.
So I guess we're going back again to value and the value that you offer in your presence online.
The value that you're seen to offer is the one clarification on that again.
Okay, the value that you're seen to offer. So, okay, I'm going to interject a question before we go on to another question. And sometimes it's hard for some of us, especially small business. We're one. We don't have a huge staff. And how do we know how we are seen to offer value?
Well, partly that's going to be by listening, looking at comment streams regarding the way people feed back to you. Are you getting testimonials that are genuine and warm, or are you buying testimonials? If you're buying them, you've just killed a signal. There's ways of encouraging them, and one of those ways is to make sure that people can see them. And if you've got, it could be you get quite a lot of testimonials, but you pick a few each month and award a prize for the best few, and that lets people know that you respect testimonials, but that you're looking for something particular, and encourages a better quality of them. Part of it is always letting people know what you expect of them. So much of what we do generally in reacting with each other in day-to-day human life is about understanding how transactions work and knowing that if you say hello to me and I blank you, I've disappointed you. I've not worked with the expected protocols. And so therefore understanding that saying hi back is expected of me is part of it. If you let your customers know what you're expecting from them, it helps. It needs to be a reasonable expectation, of course, but it's amazing how many companies really fail with that kind of aspect, and particularly any sort of user-generated content, whether it's links to your site, whether it's feedback, whether it's posts on your site or comments. Letting people know what you value is so important, which is something you can see in our comment stream right here. By engaging when people comment and thanking them for great questions and encouraging more, we got more and more great questions all the way through. It's about expectations.
I like that. That's a very an important distinction, especially I think for all of us who are the one, we are the company, as it were. We don't have a team working night and day for us. To really let your people know, your customers, your clients, whatever they are, what are your expectations from them? I think that's very important. I know when I was in the financial world, I had, this thing that I just made up because the financial world is filled with papers. But the very first thing I did was an agreement that I made with each of my clients. This is what you can expect from me, and this is what I expect from you. And, I don't think we always need to have it written down on a piece of paper that we both sign and date, but I think that is getting everything clear from the get-go. This is what I expect from you if you're going to work for me. A very important point. Okay, we've got a multi-parter from Tim Sweeney. And he likes you here, Ammon. He says, Zara Altair, thanks for getting Ammon Johns to field questions. Here are 3, okay, there are more than 3, general questions concerning SEO that I often ponder. And I think he's not the only one. What are 3 on-site SEO mistakes to avoid? What are 3 on-site SEO...
Let's take them one at a time.
Okay, all right.
3 on-site SEO mistakes.
I know, it's a multi-parted question.
Thinking that you need to stress the keyword to the point where, to be honest, it doesn't read very well. If you're really working that keyword in, it's bad. And that's still something a lot of people do. Don't do it. Another huge one is in content marketing, copying what other people have put. We all tend to, we see this a lot in marketing, why Google Plus is good, and everyone will write why Google Plus is good. If it matters to the customer, they've already found an answer by now because there's 10,000 answers out there. If it doesn't, there's no point adding it. So there is no point you adding it unless you can up every single one of those and produce the best single resource there's ever been. Now, if you're sure that you're the best writer in the world, well done. I'm the guy who struggles to call myself an expert. You must have cojones to die for. So yeah, that's the second one. The kind of content you're putting on. The third one is, it's always assumptions. You often think that you've done things that you haven't done, or you've stated things that you haven't stated, or you think it'll be more obvious. So always challenge assumptions and make sure that your code is accessible. Have a look at how it looks in various browsers. Have a look at how it's going to work in other things, and get other people to take a fresh look at your content, your writing, look at your link structure, and try and be objective about it. Don't make assumptions. Okay, what was the second one?
Okay, the second one was a very multi-part question. Just the reverse. What are 3 on-site SEO we need to make sure our sites are using?
Okay, great internal navigation structure that stresses where the importance is. If something's important, make sure you can get there from every page. If it's slightly less important, make sure you can get there from a page that you can get to from any page. And if it's very relevant to this particular thing, then of course it should be connected to that particular thing. Make sure your navigation structure is correct. That's how spiders get around. Be very careful. Number 2 is to make sure we are using an understanding of Google. Google is immense, it's fantastic, but there are billions and billions of documents online. There are billions of web pages. Um, Google can crawl so many a second. It can't crawl so many a second from each and every server, though, because it would knock down any server. Google could take down any other server pretty much in the world. It's got that kind of ability. It crawled all the pages it wanted. Because of the way hosting is done, there are many sites that all share one single machine. There's a lot of hosting companies do virtual hosting, and it's actually one server that's hosting hundreds of sites. Well, Google's still got to be careful it doesn't take that site down either. So Google is kind of limited in the speed it can hit things at. But it's still got to get through billions of pages each month. And the way it does this is it orders. It has a priority, and its priority is based on importance. That importance is largely influenced by PageRank. The only thing that toolbar PageRank is ever useful for at all is giving you a very rough idea of how Google will view the importance of your site as opposed to all sites, or rather the importance of this page as opposed to all the pages it needs to crawl in a month. Because I guarantee you one thing, Google cannot crawl all of the pages of the web every single month. Cannot be done. It's physically impossible. If you have a home page with a page rank of 2, 3, lowish, and you've built 30,000 pages of content through having news feeds and putting up blog posts every day for 2 years because an SEO company told you to, and you've got tons of product descriptions, Google is not going to crawl most of that site. You don't have enough importance for Google to have 30,000 times hit your site for pages when it's got to hit a new site every 10 minutes. So understanding that Google has a priority and understanding that the size of your site is going to dictate how much of it is crawled by its importance. If you've got a toolbar page rank of 3, you can probably expect 100 pages to be indexed every month. If you've got a 100-page site, great, that page rank sort of spread across that site, yeah, you're pretty much going to get all of it crawled. But if you've got 50,000 pages, you'll be lucky if more than 10,000 pages are in there. So it could be that 80% of your site hasn't been spidered this month, and a good 60% may not have been spidered in the last 3 months, and therefore the whole thing falls into the supplemental index. If Google doesn't find many results for something, it pulls from the supplemental index as well, so you'll still get long tail searches that are very appropriate to your page where Google didn't have thousands of other pages that matched. But any of those competitive terms, you're not going to be there because Google doesn't need to pull from the supplemental for those.
William, we're coming down on our time here, and
Okay.
I just want to acknowledge that William Rock did ask a question about do's and don'ts, and said he liked the do's better than the don'ts, but we need to still to cover them. And I hope, William Rock, that we just did some of that for you. And then I'm going to do one more question, and that's back to Tim Sweeney, and then we're going to wind down.
Okay.
Okay, and Tim had another question I think would be a really, really great way to have it for our last question, and that is, you can't see it here, but coming below all this is, what is the most repeated misconception concerning SEO you have encountered?
What SEO is, let's face it, it's the absolute most fundamental. If you get 100 SEOs into a room and you ask what is SEO, you will get 100 variations of an answer, and they will be radically different in cases. If you take the full spectrum, there will be certain people whose only introduction to marketing is through SEO. They started as web designers like I did, but maybe don't have my sales and marketing background before that, and therefore everything that they do for SEO they associate as SEO. So these are the people that say, well, content marketing is SEO, and pay-per-click is SEO, and conversions are SEO. And of course they're not. They can all be done without SEO, and somebody could not do those things and still do a job that you would reasonably call SEO, i.e. making sure that your site is in search and reasonably well ranked. So to extent, the definition of SEO has to be what's the least somebody could do and reasonably be called an SEO. Because we don't have the authority to decide unilaterally, well, you're not an SEO. If it's reasonable that what they do is SEO, then that is the level of SEO, whatever the bottom level is, not the top level. I think a lot of us need to understand that SEO is a part of promotion. It's not the only part of promotion, but it's a part of promotion, and that promotion is just one of the 4 P's of marketing. And that, you know, a lot of the things that we think we are adding to SEO, we're not. We're starting to take away from marketing. That's good. That's what's expected. We're expected to up our game and reach that marketing level to broaden ourselves and become more connected. But don't make the mistake of assuming it's all SEO.
That was a super answer, and I really liked your point about, you know, reducing your marketing level. Whoa, that's not something we want to do. Ammon, I really want to thank you for being here today, but I especially want to thank you for being open to the concept of just answering questions. I think it's such a terrific part of HOAs, and I really applaud you for being part of this crazy experiment that I dreamed up, and embracing it wholeheartedly and having fun with it, and having fun with it because we had a lot of people in our audience who had fun. You have a quote here? So anyway, I also want to thank our audience because you've been just tremendous in answering questions and engaging today. And I really want to thank you all. Next week we have a special 1-hour midweek zap with David Amerland, and we're doing a very similar format. It's questions, 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 questions. So join us next week. Once again, Ammon, thank you so much. It's just been terrific, and I've really enjoyed our time. So let's say goodbye to everybody.
Oh, thank you. I've had a great time. And don't worry, David, I'll have some questions for you.
Thanks, everyone.